Imagine a lone federal marshal on a mining station orbiting Jupiter, discovering corruption that goes all the way to the top while assassins hunt him through grimy industrial corridors. Outland had all the ingredients for a classic space western. Sean Connery as the weathered hero, High Noon's proven dramatic formula, and cutting-edge production design that made space feel genuinely dangerous and lived in. When Outland premiered in 1981, it arrived at the perfect moment for serious science fiction. This was post-Alien, post-Empire Strikes Back, when audiences craved mature sci-fi that treated space as a hostile frontier rather than a fantasy playground. Director Peter Hyams wanted to make High Noon in space, transplanting classic Western themes to an industrial future where megacorporations had replaced cattle barons and mining stations had become lawless frontier towns. With a substantial $16 million budget and Sean Connery's star power behind it, the film earned only $17.4 million domestically. It barely broke even and failed to establish the space western as a viable subgenre. So what happened? How did a film with such a perfect concept, stellar execution, and timeless themes fail to find its audience? Today we're exploring why Outland should have been science fiction's definitive Western masterpiece. Let's start with what Outland absolutely mastered. The production design created one of cinema's most convincing space environments. The Can-Am 27 mining station feels genuinely industrial and lived in. Every surface is grimy, functional, and worn down by constant use. This isn't the sterile future of most sci-fi films. This is a working-class space where people sweat for their paychecks. Director Peter Hyams served as both director and cinematographer. This gave the film a unified visual style that other productions couldn't match. The narrow corridors stretch into darkness. Windows reveal Jupiter's swirling atmospheric beauty. But that beauty feels hostile and alien. The color palette of industrial grays and amber lighting creates perpetual unease. Every shot reinforces that space is trying to kill you. The zero-gravity sequences were revolutionary for 1981. Hyams used innovative wire work and rotating sets to achieve weightlessness. No computer graphics were needed. The explosive decompression scenes used practical effects that remain viscerally effective today. When a worker's suit ruptures in the vacuum, you feel the horror. The effect is immediate and brutal. The film's technical achievements extended beyond visual effects. The mining equipment feels essential to survival rather than decorative. Life support systems have weight and consequence. The technology serves the story instead of overwhelming it. Everything looks functional because it has to be functional. But here's what made Outland truly special. Hyams understood his source material completely. This was High Noon in space, and he committed to that concept. The structure mirrors the Western classic, beat for beat. A lone lawman discovers corruption. His superiors abandon him. Hired killers arrive on the Noon shuttle. The community he's protecting refuses to help. The station's social structure deliberately mirrors frontier boomtowns. You've got company stores that keep workers in debt. Corrupt administrators who profit from vice. Entertainment districts that provide escape from harsh reality. Corporate security that serves profit over justice. It's the American frontier with artificial gravity. Hyams faced significant production challenges making this vision work, building massive practical sets that actors could navigate naturally, making futuristic technology feel believable instead of fantastical, creating claustrophobic tension in vast industrial spaces. The solutions were elegant and effective. The film's greatest achievement was making space feel dangerous without relying on aliens or monsters. The real threat comes from human greed and institutional corruption. Corporate negligence kills more people than cosmic horror. Workers die from preventable accidents while administrators count profits. It's a mature approach to science fiction that treats space colonization as an extension of earthly problems. Performances in Outland showcase mature actors elevating familiar material through sheer commitment. Sean Connery delivers one of his most underrated performances as Marshal William O'Neill. This isn't the suave James Bond or the swashbuckling Indiana Jones's father. This is a weary lawman who's seen too much corruption. Connery brings gravitas and moral authority to every scene. Watch Connery in the early investigation sequences. His growing realization that the entire system is rigged feels genuine. The way he processes each piece of evidence shows a methodical mind at work. Connery never overplays the moments of discovery. He lets the audience reach conclusions alongside his character. It's subtle, intelligent acting that modern action films rarely attempt. Peter Boyle creates a perfectly oily corporate villain as Shepard, the station administrator. Boyle understands that the best antagonists believe they're reasonable. Shepard genuinely thinks he's solving problems through drug distribution. Workers are more productive when they're high. Accidents happen anyway, so why not profit from vice? Boyle makes corporate logic sound almost sensible. The confrontation scenes between Connery and Boyle crackle with tension. These aren't action sequences. They're philosophical debates about law versus profit. Boyle matches Connery's intensity without resorting to scenery chewing. Both actors understand they're representing larger forces than their individual characters. Frances Sternhagen steals every scene as Dr. Lazarus. Sternhagen creates the film's most memorable supporting character. She's cynical about corporate medicine, but compassionate toward individual patients. Her dry humor provides relief without undermining the serious tone. The relationship between Lazarus and O'Neill develops naturally through shared moral outrage. Sternhagen's best moment comes when she decides to help O'Neill despite obvious danger. Her choice isn't heroic posturing. It's practical ethics applied to impossible circumstances. She can't live with herself if she abandons the only honest person on the station. Sternhagen sells this decision through small facial expressions rather than dramatic speeches. James B. Sicking effectively portrays Sergeant Montone as a good man, caught between loyalty and survival. Sicking shows Montone's internal conflict without making him pathetic. He wants to help O'Neill, but has family obligations. His eventual abandonment of duty feels tragic rather than cowardly. Sicking creates a fully realized character with limited screen time. The film's most memorable sequence showcases the entire cast's commitment. It's the explosive decompression scene where a drugged worker's suit ruptures in vacuum. The moment is genuinely shocking and visceral. But it works because the actors sell the horror. Their reactions feel authentic rather than performed. These performances reinforce the film's central themes about individual integrity versus institutional corruption. Connery's O'Neill represents old-fashioned justice in a world where corporations have replaced law and order. Each supporting character must choose between personal survival and moral responsibility. The actors make these choices feel weighty and consequential. Here's the interesting casting story behind Connery's involvement. He was initially reluctant to return to science fiction after mixed experiences with other genre films. But director Peter Hyams convinced him by emphasizing character over spectacle. This would be a realistic space environment that prioritized human drama. Connery responded to the mature themes and committed fully to the vision. The critical reception of Outland reveals a film that impressed professionals while struggling to find its audience. Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars. He called it a well-crafted piece of work that succeeded despite its familiar story structure. Ebert praised Connery's performance and the convincing production design. He understood what Hyams was attempting with the space western concept. Variety was equally positive about the technical achievements. They noted the superior production values and convincing future world, but they questioned whether audiences would embrace such a deliberate, methodical approach to science fiction. The review proved prophetic about the film's commercial struggles. The New York Times praised the film's maturity and intelligence. Critics appreciated that Outland treated space colonization seriously, rather than as fantasy adventure. The realistic approach to corporate corruption and worker exploitation felt relevant to contemporary issues. But this adult sophistication may have worked against box office success. Audiences were genuinely divided by the film's pacing and tone. Many expected Star Wars-style space adventure and found methodical detective work instead. The film moves at High Noon's deliberate pace rather than modern action rhythms. Viewers used to constant excitement found the character development too slow. The space western concept confused marketing departments and audiences alike. Was this science fiction or western drama? The genre hybrid didn't fit neatly into established categories. Theater owners struggled to position the film for target demographics. The unique approach that made it special also made it commercially difficult. International reception was slightly better than domestic performance. European audiences seemed more receptive to the film's serious themes and measured pacing. The corporate corruption storyline resonated with viewers skeptical of American capitalism. But even positive international response couldn't compensate for domestic disappointment. The film's violence was surprisingly brutal for mainstream science fiction. The explosive decompression sequences were genuinely shocking. Some critics felt the graphic content clashed with the thoughtful themes. Others praised the realistic consequences of space environment dangers. The violence served story purposes rather than providing cheap thrills. But something remarkable happened over the following decades. Home video gave Outland a second chance with audiences. Viewers discovering it on cable or VHS weren't burdened by theatrical expectations. They could appreciate the craftsmanship and mature themes without comparing it to blockbuster spectacles. Critics began reassessing the film in the 1990s and 2000s. Film scholars noted its prescient warnings about corporate control and privatized space exploration. The themes felt more relevant as space commercialization became reality. Outland had been ahead of its time, rather than behind audience expectations. Legacy Outland's influence on later works proves its vision was ahead of its time rather than fundamentally flawed. The film's industrial space aesthetic directly influenced Ridley Scott's Alien sequel. James Cameron studied Outland's practical effects and production design extensively. The grimy, functional space environments became the template for realistic science fiction. The space western concept found new life in television, where episodic formats could develop complex themes properly. Joss Whedon's Firefly borrowed heavily from Outland's frontier atmosphere and corporate antagonists. The Expanse television series owes a direct debt to Outland's realistic approach to space colonization and worker exploitation. Modern films like Moon and Ad Astra follow Outland's template of character-driven space stories. These productions prioritize atmosphere and theme over spectacle. Directors frequently cite Outland as proof that science fiction can work without aliens or laser battles. The human drama approach has been vindicated by critical and commercial success. The film's themes about corporate control feel remarkably prescient today. We live in an era where space exploration is dominated by private companies. SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic represent exactly the kind of corporate colonization Outland warned against. The film's questions about worker safety and profit margins resonate more strongly now than in 1981. Modern labor discussions make Outland's themes incredibly relevant. The film depicts a future where corporations control entire communities. Workers live in company housing, shop at company stores, and depend on company security. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's contemporary reality in many industries. The privatization of space exploration has made Outland's warnings feel prophetic. Recent discussions about Mars colonization echo the film's concerns about corporate accountability. Who protects workers when the nearest law enforcement is millions of miles away? Outland asked these questions decades before they became practical concerns. Streaming platforms have given the film unexpected new life. Netflix and Amazon Prime algorithms recommend it to viewers after they watch realistic space films. These accidental discoveries create renewed appreciation for Outland's craftsmanship and themes. Younger audiences discover it without preconceptions about commercial failure. Film schools now teach Outland as an example of successful genre hybridization. Students analyze how Hyams adapted Western structures to science fiction settings. The film demonstrates that familiar stories can feel fresh with proper execution and contemporary relevance. It's become a masterclass in intelligent adaptation. Small but dedicated fan communities have emerged online. Reddit threads analyze the film's technical achievements and thematic depth. Some fans create detailed breakdowns of the mining station's layout and technology. Others discuss the corporate structure and economic systems depicted. The film rewards close analysis in ways that weren't appreciated initially. Recent space western productions validate Outland's approach completely. Shows like The Expanse prove audiences are ready for realistic space storytelling. Films like First Man demonstrate appetite for practical effects over digital spectacle. Outland was simply 20 years ahead of audience readiness. Outland isn't a failure that should have succeeded. It's a success that happened to fail commercially. The film achieved everything it set out to accomplish except finding its contemporary audience. Time has vindicated its vision completely. Do you think Outland would find its audience if released today? Or was it simply too sophisticated for 1981 moviegoers? Should more science fiction films follow its realistic approach to space colonization and corporate accountability? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more deep dives into the underappreciated films that were ahead of their time.